Hello, welcome to another video in my planets through the nakshatras and ascendants through the nakshatras and everything through the nakshatras series. Lots and lots of videos coming your way in this series. It may take me a few years to do them, but I'm committed to doing them. And I thought this week I'd do something a little bit different, which is, see what everybody wanted me to do a video on. I don't have to do these in any specific order. So I did a poll on my Facebook page, and the highest vote was for Jupiter in Ardra Nakshatra. And that is what we're going to focus on today. And for the focus on Jupiter in Ardra Nakshatra, here we are in this lovely converted chapel, which is a temporary holiday let I'm renting at the moment. And I thought it all just kind of fit really well. Outside the window, it's extremely windy today. Rahu is associated with wind, and at present, Jupiter and Rahu are conjuncting each other. So hey, no wonder everybody wanted to talk about Jupiter in Ardra Nakshatra. Ardra, which is ruled over by Rahu. So in terms of understanding how any planet is going to function in Ardra Nakshatra, it's important to understand the well-being of Rahu. And in terms of Rahu and Ketu and dignity, it's not a simple matter because these are disembodied planets. They're not actual planets, right? So they are not really able to have dignity. A lot of astrologers will say that Rahu's exalted in Taurus, Ketu is exalted in Scorpio, and I have found some associations with that to be specifically true. But when it boils down to it, as these are shadowy grahas or shadowy planets, they don't have any real physical form. The only visible thing that they can create is eclipses. So they don't have any physical form. The only way you can determine their dignity is by the planet that is ruling them, right? So that's one key to understand how any planet is going to function in Ardra Nakshatra, which is how is Rahu? And in order to understand how Rahu is, we need to understand how the ruling planet of Rahu is. By the way, if you're wondering if you have any planets in Ardra Nakshatra, please feel free to visit my website. At the link below, there's a free chart calculator on the site. You can calculate it. Also, while you're there, if you want to schedule an astrological service with me, that would be great too. But back to talking about Ardra Nakshatra. Ardra Nakshatra gives the power of effort. The power of effort. With each of these nakshatras, there's a basis above, a basis below, and a result of the combination of those two things. The basis above is what the heavens or God or the universe is bringing about for us, right? So the basis above with Ardra Nakshatra is hunting or searching. So the heavens make us hunt or search for something. Down here on earth, the physically incarnated individual is trying to reach the goal. So through the combination of hunting and searching and reaching the goal is brought about achievement, right? And there's a specific story that goes along with Ardra Nakshatra. And it's about a demon king who practiced all these severe penances to be granted a boon by Brahma. And once he did, I'm not going to go into the specifics of the story because I want to keep the video short for everyone. But if you want to find it, you can look for the story about Taraka online. So once he did, he got this boon from Brahma. And once he received this boon, he began to terrorize all the gods because he became so strong and so powerful that he began to terrorize all the gods. And eventually they had to go get Shiva's seed in order to put an end to this particular demon. There's further developments to the story, but again, I'm not going to go into the full story. You can find it online. Interestingly enough, one of the symbols for Ardra Nakshatra is a tear of Rudra, Rudra's tear. Rudra is a fierce form of Shiva. Why is Rudra crying? right? Well, Rudra is crying because the individual incarnated here on earth is taking it upon himself to, become this all-powerful thing. So there's sadness at the recognition of that, right? So basically, this is like a double-edged sword nakshatra. There comes for an individual tremendous power and tremendous focus. But what usually happens, as happens with all the nakshatras ruled by Rahu, something happens to the individual where they get pulled in a certain direction so that things are not quite as they seem. And due to this, they have an awakening and they have a shift that occurs. And it's the same with Ardra. The individual develops tunnel focus, one pointed focus on a specific goal, but they miss everything else that is going on around them. So let's take a look at some of the things associated with Jupiter, some of the things associated with Ardra Nakshatra, and see if we can put together how Jupiter is going to function here. This is a very difficult placement for Jupiter. Jupiter being the planet of expansion. Jupiter is also associated with our finances, with our children, with the capacity to get a good spiritual teacher, the capacity to be wise and to really use our intelligence well. And this is not a good position for Jupiter. It creates a lot of hardship, with the exception of in the fourth pada of Ardra Nakshatra, there's better strength for Jupiter. So I thought we'd take a look at a few different types of concepts. So let's first talk about Jupiter in Ardra Nakshatra, how that would affect a person financially. Well, it can make a person really focused on achieving and trying to earn, and they might, actually miss some of the more important things in life. Let's give a particular instance. Let's create a scenario. Let's say Jupiter is in the third pada of Ardra, which is going to give a tremendous amount of desire. And it's a Leo Lagna, or Leo ascendant. And we've got Rahu in the fourth pada, or fourth section. That's what a pada is. Each nakshatra is divided into 4 quarters. But in the fourth pada of Shatabisha Nakshatra, that's the fourth section of Shatabisha. So let's recount this. So Jupiter's in the third pada of Ardra for a Leo ascendant, and we've got Rahu in the fourth pada of Shatabisha Nakshatra. Shatabisha tends to create calamity so that something is revealed to the individual, right? So with individuals like this, there can be an intense focus on financial gain, like I was saying. But what may happen for them is that their success or desire for finances may come at an expense to their children. It can create problems with their children. Rahu would likely lead them into a calamity because of Rahu's position in Shatabisha and create difficulty with both finances and their children in order to awaken them to this mistake, right? This would be especially heightened if it was a male parent for people who are fathers. Now, this isn't saying if you've got this position, this is going to happen to you. This is just giving some ways that this all works, right? How Jupiter works. Let's take a look at the fact that here's something that we actually missed, is that Jupiter is also the ruler of spouse for a woman. So let's say we've got a woman with a Capricorn Lagna, and Jupiter again in the third pada of Ardra Nakshatra, where it's going to create a lot more of the it's going to heighten the desire nature of Ardra Nakshatra, because Ardra is a Kama Nakshatra. It's already desire-oriented. And if you've got Jupiter in the third pada, it's going to run the chance of intensifying this person's desire to get a specific type of mate. They have their mind set on finding the perfect mate who's going to be this living, walking God on earth amongst men who has this intensely powerful sexual attraction. And let's say we've got Rahu in the fourth pada of Mula Nakshatra, right? And we've got Saturn in the second pada of Chitra Nakshatra. I'm not going to go into the specifics of those other nakshatras, but what this can create for the individual is they get so caught up in this particular concept of the perfect man, right, that they have things not work out for them, they're not finding the perfect man, and they have this awakening that really they're trying to create something perfect outside of themselves, when instead they should look on the perfection that they are. They should look at the work of art that they are. They should work on heightening their own self-worth and working on themselves. Quite often people will be looking for this perfect thing outside, but it reflects this inner desire to find this perfect entity inside of ourselves. Because if you're perfect inside of yourself, which none of us are, we're all working on that, right? Then there's no need to find anything outside of yourself. It's all there, right? So with a Cancer ascendant, let's focus on the concept of spiritual teacher. Let's say we've got a Cancer ascendant, and here's a good way that Ardra Nakshatra can work. But we've got a Cancer ascendant with Jupiter in the 4th pada of Ardra Nakshatra. And we've got the moon in Kritika Nakshatra in the 1st pada with Mercury in Purva Palguni in the 4th pada of Purva Palguni. So this could create feelings for the individual of separation from themselves, unhappiness inside of themselves, but there's a good side of it because it could lead them to an intense desire for self-purification. Due to this intense desire for self-purification, they would stand a good chance of encountering an excellent spiritual teacher, that could help to place them in an environment with other like-minded individuals where on a path of service, they could purify themselves. They could take that intense level of focus and really accomplish a lot. And this is where Ardra Nakshatra is good. Ardra Nakshatra is good when an individual is focusing on using it for spiritual purposes, using it for selfless purposes rather than selfish purposes. Still, there will always be the capacity to become so intensively focused on something that you're missing the bigger picture, regardless of if you're doing it for spiritual purposes or not, because it's the way this nakshatra works. It intensifies the mental focus of the individual. It intensifies the level of passion that they have to achieve a specific result. Because Ardra Nakshatra is rajasic at its foundation, that's going to create the desire. It builds upon that with tamasic energy. The tamasic energy realizes that there's a problem and condenses all this rajasic energy until basically the individual reaches a sattvic level, which is a more aware level. So it starts with the passion. It directs that passion towards a specific purpose, but with a certain level of ignorance, so that the individual has an awakening. And this is how this nakshatra works. Each of the nakshatras has an association with one of the Trimurti, meaning Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva. And Ardra Nakshatra is associated with Shiva. So it's about cutting away at the ego. And the way that it does it is it makes the person not really always achieve what they're trying to achieve, or they achieve what they're trying to achieve with a cost. And that cost comes as an awakening. And that awakening usually happens after an emotional purification for the individual. So how does this work in relation to Jupiter? Well, if the person's seeking finances, quite often those finances are going to come at a cost. It's like the word a pyrrhic victory. Not a pirate victory, a pyrrhic victory, which means a victory that's somewhat bittersweet, right? Many times that can come at the expense of one's children. Let's say somebody had an intense level of focus to have children, right? So it might bring them to such a level of having this intense focus to have children that they create hardship for themselves in actually doing so, right? Or they could, spend lots of money on techniques that help to increase their fertility, only to recognize that, it's either not necessarily a lost cause, but really it can be more easily achieved than the method that they're trying to achieve it. In terms of education, a person can become so intensively focused on their education that they miss the simple things in life, right? So I'm just giving you some simple ways this can work now. Or they could be, another scenario is they could become so intensively focused on wanting to have a spiritual teacher, just for the appearances of having a spiritual teacher, right? That instead what they get is a spiritual teacher who is not solid. right? Because things fall through. With Rahu, things generally tend to fall through. So you're best suited with the Rahu ruled nakshatras, which are Ardra, Swati, and Shatabisha, right? To recognize that things may not turn out quite the way you're expecting them to keep your awareness open, to be ready for anything and open to anything, right? So these are just a few ways that having Jupiter in Ardra Nakshatra can work. You can look for another video in this series next week, and I likely will be taking a vote on that as well. And just a reminder, please, if you want to schedule a consultation with me, you can click the link below to go to my astrological services page. That's going to do it for your video for today. Until next time, please take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.